Today we are at Pop Century Resort. This is a value resort. It's one of 5 here located on Disney's property. We thought today would be cool just to come and do a little resort tour. We're not actually going to step inside any rooms, but we thought we'd take you around the grounds, show you around, kind of give our point of view, what we think about the resort, whether it's worth it, you know, all those things.
So Pop Century was actually announced in December 1999 and then didn't open until December 2003. It's right next to Hollywood Studios and pretty close to ESPN Wide World of Sports as well, and it sits on 177 acres of land. Pretty big. So originally Pop Century was going to have 2 separate areas. What Pop Century is now was going to be known as the classic years, and then they were going to build the legendary years, which was years before 1950.
It's basically the 1900s to the 1940s.
Yeah. However, in 2011, those plans were changed because they announced the building of Art of Animation. And like the All-Star Resorts, Pop Century is a value resort, and prices are among the least expensive of all Disney resorts.
This is actually one of the most sought-after value resorts out of all 5. You would think Art of Animation might be in there because it's more recent or it's newer. Basically, Art of Animation is almost all suites. They do have some standard regular hotel size rooms, but it's mostly all suites, so you're actually looking at more, even though it's considered value, it's more of a moderate style resort, so or it's moderate pricing. But Pop Century is by far the most sought after value resort out of all the All-Stars and Art of Animation, just because of its, I think, its theming. And honestly, I don't think it ever really feels like it's super crowded or busy here.
No, it hasn't today at least.
And it has, to my knowledge, I believe, it only has 1 bus stop.
It only has 1 bus stop.
It's not like how the All-Stars used to be, where sometimes they might stop at several, you know, they might stop at
3
sport.
resorts.
Yeah, exactly. And overall, I think it's just a really inviting type of resort. It's fun.
So we're going to start our tour here in the lobby area, and then we're going to head out back and check out all of the buildings. So Classic Hall features a check-in lobby, gift shop, food court, and arcade. From mood rings to 8-track tapes, surfboards to pet rocks, Superman to saddle shoes, so much nostalgia pours from Disney's Pop Century Resort. The wall across from the check-in desk is a memory lane of wall-mounted shadow boxes brimming with the fads, fashions, music, toys, and trinkets from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and the 90s. Everything pop, shopping, and dining is where you can shop for Disney merchandise before and after you dine in this far-out food court that's a blast from the past. Find food favorites like waffles, pasta, flatbreads, and salads in one of 4 food stations, and in-room pizza delivery is also available. First thing we run into outside here is Petals Pool Bar. Here you can find your inner flower power at this groovy bar by the Hippy Dippy pool. Try house specialties like the Tropical Banana Cabana or poolside iced tea, all while you can play ping pong. Cocktails, draft beer, sangria, and wine are also available out here.
Alright, so if you guys are looking for recreation, something to do while you're at the resort, because listen, sometimes it's nice just to chill at the resort and not have to go hang out at the parks. They have several different things that you can do. They have the fast forward arcade, which is huge, by the way. There's a ton of stuff in there. They also have 3 pools. They have a jogging trail. They have Surry bike pass for you, and Surry bikes you can rent. There's the Hourglass Lake. If you don't know this, there's actually a connection between here and Art of Animation. So along with the jogging trail which runs around here, you can also head on over to Art of Animation. It's like your own little experience park hopping and not actually having to ever really leave the resort area. Another thing that you can do is at nighttime, which is really great. They do a little thing that's called Movie Underneath the Stars. Basically what they do is they'll put up a big giant blow-up screen basically, and they'll project a movie onto the screen. And it's usually always Disney movies or Pixar movies. They also have a lot of other activities that you can do for kids. Some of them do cost extra, like tie-dye. So here's something to add to this resort, is that, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think that the gondola might have a stop here at Pop Century. They're actually putting the gondolas right through the Hourglass Lake. Really cool. They're doing the construction right now, and that's got to be what that is over there. That's got to be the station.
Well, you can see the gondolas right there.
Yeah, so you can see the gondolas right there. They've got a crane up. They're going to come out. They're going to come across the water. Ooh, don't get motion sickness. And right over here, they're actually building, this is going to be the platform, and then the station for you to get on the gondola and ride it around. Head over to Hollywood Studios or Epcot, I think, right?
So our first stop is here at the 50s area, and it features giant sock hoppers dancing on the sides of the buildings, probably bebopping to the tunes of the 40-foot tall tabletop jukebox that anchors the courtyard. There are a bunch of bowling pins all around here in this area too. They're basically the stairwells that go up in the buildings, and these bowling pins stand 60 feet high. And now if you count around here, there's actually 9 bowling pin stairwells. And you might wonder where that 10th bowling pin is, because there should be 10 bowling pins. That 10th one is the swimming pool. There's also Lady and the Tramp from the movie Lady and the Tramp, and that movie was released in 1955, so that is why it's in this area.
I'm trying to rescue a little baby bird right now. So we're actually currently walking what it would be the jogging, running, walking Surry Trail,
yeah,
if you will. And a little cool thing about this is that they have these little signs up, and they give you like little information about things from back in the 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s, everything else that's here.
Whichever area you're in, there's a sign for something that happened every single year.
Yeah. So actually, if you are looking to take the bridge over to Art of Animation, you want to cut right through the 60s area of Pop Century, and that'll take you right on over to Art of Animation and get rent a Surry bike or continue running. Let's talk about the 60s. What's the first thing that pops into your mind? My thing is tie-dyed hues and psychedelic colors, and those are the focus. Kind of have that like really hippy-dippy type of feel over here in the 1960s area. 125,000 gallons of paint were used to create the bright colors and the tie-dyed hues. So in the 1960s building area, you're going to find a lot of these toys or themes from the 60s. One thing is the Play-Doh. Play-Doh was a huge thing back in the 60s. There is Mowgli and Baloo. That's right. They're actually over here. They're created and they're sculpted. Another thing that you're going to find in the area, these giant Duncan Imperial yo-yos. It's actually like one of these that's behind me. They are actually on the outsides of all the buildings, and those are the stairwells. I think what's really cool is how they just use these larger-than-life, almost, you know, toys from when these people were kids as the stairwells, instead of it just being a plain old stairwell. So last but not least, something that kids are really going to look forward to, here is the Hippy Dippy pool, which is a flower-shaped pool complete with sporting petals on the periphery.
So these giant stairwell yo-yos that you see here, the strings that are attached to the top that you would yo-yo them with, they're actually 1 foot in diameter. That's a huge piece of string. And Josh forgot to mention, the reason the Jungle Book is in this area is because that movie came out in 1967. We have now made it into the 1970s. And in this courtyard, the big, colorful, big wheel right there behind me is right across from a giant Mickey rotary telephone. And this big wheel right here, there's a little sign on it that says that it could accommodate a child up to 877 pounds. Between these two big icons is a giant foosball soccer field. And these soccer players are more than 12 feet tall. And their giant soccer ball over there is over 2.5 feet in diameter. We've been talking about the stairwells in all these different areas. The stairwells in this area are actually 8 tracks. And if you're like really young, you might not know what an 8 track is. So these 8 tracks are 35 feet tall. Look at this over here. You can actually play Twister outside. If you can tell from the giant Roger Rabbit behind me, which the movie was released in 1988, we are now in the 80s area of the resort. So this was the most puzzling of toy decades because this was when the Rubik's Cube was released. And the Rubik's Cubes in this area are the stairwells. They picked pretty iconic toys to be the stairwell at this resort. And these Rubik's Cubes are over 40 feet tall. The Walt Disney Imagineers actually designed these cubes to represent different stages of the solution process. So you can actually see there's a couple of them that are completely solved. And then across the courtyard here from Roger Rabbit is the original Sony Walkman. And it has the accompanying headphone set. As you can see on all these railings here, they're covered in Pac-Man. The separation between the 80s and 90s area is actually this giant computer pool. And so it took me a minute to figure this out, but the swimming pool is actually supposed to be the big computer screen, and then there is a giant keyboard out here in this open area that is like the courtyard of the 80s area. And you better grab your rollerblades because we're about to skate on into the 90s. So this whole 90s area is basically themed upon 2 technologic advances of the 90s, which was the computer
and rollerblades.
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Cell phone. But this giant computer behind us right here, it actually has 4 little icons of all the 4 theme parks. And it does not say Hollywood Studios, it says Disney's MGM Studios. And it has, the icon is the Eiffel Tower. So the 90s area is definitely the smallest area of all of these guest rooms. However, these giant cell phones on the ends that are the stairwells here, they actually used to have Disney's phone number on the screen. And then CDs came out in the 90s, so there are CDs all along the railings, along with the rollerblades, because who did not rollerblade in the 90s?
So right now behind me are the bus stops. These are the only form of transportation that you have from the resort to a park or to Disney Springs that is complimentary. Now here soon the gondolas will be open, so you'll be able to take a gondola from here to some of the other resorts and to Disney's Hollywood Studios and Epcot. Well, that concludes our little resort tour. Sorry we couldn't show any rooms, but we're not staying here. Overall, my thoughts are this is a great resort.
It's a great value resort.
Multiple pools to choose from.
Yeah.
The pools are well themed. Everything's well themed. I think this is a great place for kids. If you're an adult or an adult couple and you're looking to like spend all your time in the parks, save yourself the money and stay here.
Oh, definitely.
If you're an adult couple, you're looking to kind of have like some alone time, some peace and quiet, this is not where I would choose to stay. I would try to stay at maybe like Port Orleans or you know, any of the larger deluxe resorts, just because it's a little bit quieter.
But this is definitely a great place to stay. There is lots of food options in the food court.
Absolutely.
It's actually a pretty nice store that they have there too for shopping. And like Josh said, the pools outside are awesome. There's lots of recreational stuff to do here. If it's the arcade or the running trail or the Surry bike. And for food options, you can actually even go right over to Art of Animation across the bridge and you can eat there in their food court. And their food court's awesome.
It is. It's really good.
I want to tell you my favorite thing about this resort. The theming is awesome, but I love when you walk through the different areas, they're actually playing different music from that time period specifically.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought that was really cool because we were like, we'd start singing along and then I'm like, oh, this song's from the 80s. Oh, this song's from the 90s. Like, they were playing it specific to the area. And then I also thought it was really awesome that they had those twister boards outside.
That was pretty cool.
That was really cool.
It was cool.
Completely unexpected.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have stayed here before, it was a very long time ago when we'd come on vacation, we would stay here for like one night. We'd go check into our DVC resort. Didn't really pay attention to all the detail like we did today whenever we just checked out the resort. And I know for a fact Josh has stayed here one time, but he barely remembers because apparently it was really late at night or something.
We checked in like super late. We got in late, we checked in late, we just needed to be here, just like Taylor said, just one night so we could check in tomorrow. So overall though, try to get into this resort. If you're looking to save value, try to get here.
Oh yeah.
It just, to me, it just seems to be a little bit of a better option than just
Staying
the
at the
All-Stars.
All-Stars. Have you ever stayed at Pop Century before? Let us know.
I just had to go to some more cups of water because it's like 1,000 degrees outside right now.